broadcasting to viewers in Liberia and across the globe. Hello and a warm welcome to News Today on KMTV. I'm Anthony Kukwei Monrovia. Wherever you're watching us from, we say thanks for joining our news broadcast tonight. Stories making headlines tonight. Thousands of high school students present certificate of appreciation to President George Weah, call on government to place a halt on the administration of the WAS exams for 5 years. Public Works Minister Mambudu Yimpan called on government officials to muster political will to prevent disaster. And away from Liberia, authorities in the Central African Republic have issued a warning to a malicious suspected of killing at least 34 villagers earlier this week. Welcome to KMTV News. We begin the program at the Foreign Affairs Ministry, where thousands of high school students today represented by some of their colleagues, call on national government to suspend the administration of the West African Senior School Certification exam for the next 5 years. The call, according to the students, is due to the lack of equipped laboratories and libraries, including resource materials, in almost all of the high schools across the country. The request was made at President George Weah Foreign Affairs Office in Monrovia when a group of 12th graders who recently completed the WAS exams gone and presented a certificate of appreciation to the president for paying their fees. Yasa Rabas is the president of the Mosserado County Students Union.
Mr. President, today, as you can see, students from all parts of the country are gathered here to appreciate you and honor you for the supportive work done thus far. As you hear right here from our leader that in the history of Liberia, you are the only president who has supported education to the letter. You are the only president who has supported education to the letter, thereby paying all 12 WAS fees and for selling as a free WAS. So for this, the students of Liberia have come with a gratified heart to say thank you to you, Mr. President, and your corps of officers, so that you will continue to my fellow students and I have come with a recommendation to your office. So our recommendation to you, Mr. President, is that you put a halt to the WAS examination for the next 5 years, because we are cognizant of the fact that our country is not prepared for the WAS examination, due to the fact that most high schools within the country do not have a well-equipped laboratory and library. Within those suspended 5 years, we ask that you pass a law that all high schools within the country have a well-equipped laboratory and library, so that when students see the test, they will not be like a boo-boo man. Mr. President, I can assure you that all of the students sitting here have never seen a benzene burner, but yes, we do it in chemistry. They have never seen a physics paper, but yes, we do it in physics and chemistry. I will give a recommendation to you that you put a halt to the WAS examination for the next 5 years. So with this, Mr. President, we still will refer to you.
Well, in response, President George Weah told the students to rather thank their parents for paying their taxes, adding that it was true. That means that the money were paid for their WAS fees. He at the same time thanked and expressed his appreciation for the gathering.
You are thanking us for something that your parents did. So if you go home, also thank to your parents and say thank you. Because they are their taxes that pay your WAS fees. So they cannot be forgotten. They play a major role. So continue to encourage them to pay their taxes, and then your school, your WAS fee will always be paid. We want to be part of you. We want you to go to your tests, go and take your tests, When people say that you're failing because you're in the street from one place to another, that way you can study, you now have the opportunity that a wise will be paid, you have to make us proud. So those people that are telling you this why you are not passing for, you have to make the difference. You have to take your education very seriously. You said that you want to suspend one wise for 5 years. 5 years. Why? Why you want to suspend for 5 years? Because you are not ready? Because you are not equipped? But I think 5 years is too much. You see, why you have to understand that general things are greater than individual stuff. So some, you are not prepared. Some people are prepared. The fact that you are not prepared means that everybody are not prepared. We go to the wise, some are fail, and some are pass. But now the question should go to us to say, why my class didn't pass and I did not pass? We have the same condition, there's no laboratory as the same. But someone can pass the test with one star and you can pass the test. Is that because of laboratory? So you have to search yourself. You have to continue to read, to make sure that you study. It doesn't matter whether you don't have facility or not.
The Liberian leader also used the occasion to admonish every citizen to help in maintaining peace and stability. He said a solution concerns of aggrieved people can be channeled through dialogue instead of staging a protest that could take the country backward.
There's a better way to advocate for things that you want. It's not to constantly trying to measure arms with those that you depend on. To always dialogue, advocate for people in a meaningful way. I listen to you, you ask me to dialogue with the different organizations that are trying to protest. But see, in our law, the Article 17 tells us that we must summon peacefully. The government has the right to protect the protesters and non-protesters. And this is what we are doing, to make sure that those that try to protest, for the reason I don't know, but we have the responsibility as a government to make sure that children also go to school. So we'll do our best to make sure that while the protesters are in the street, children will have the opportunity to go to school. But what I'm trying to tell you, whatever reason you want to go to the street for, it can be solved. You came to the street because you could not register on time, to solve that issue. Government is for the people, by the people, and of the people.
All right.
My peaceful nature is not because I'm afraid or I'm weak. I believe that peace is better than war.
If you're just joining, you're watching News Today, have an hour news presentation that brings you up to date with unfoldings in Liberia. It's not time to go for our break, but here's what's here ahead of us. Public Works Minister Mambudu Yimpan calls on government officials to muster political will in order to prevent disaster. This plus other developments all coming up right after this break. Public Works Minister Mambudu Yimpan has called on government officials to muster the political will in order to prevent disaster. The Public Works Minister calls comes in the wake of what he calls constant violation of zoning laws in the country. He spoke when he appeared at the House of Representatives on Thursday.
Providing resources in this sector will help to mitigate and handle some of the situations with which we are faced, especially during this period in our country when it's rainy season. We've come to emphatically indicate that providing resources for disaster prevention and management is an imperative. We need resources to be able not only to respond to disaster situations, but to also be able to prevent disaster situations. We believe that our approach in this direction should mostly be focused on the prevention of disaster. And for us at the Ministry of Public Works, and I'm sure my technicians will even give more vivid examples, the issue of disaster, especially flood, is an issue of which we are confronted year in and year out. And the key point we'd like to make today is this: irrespective of how much we provide for disaster relief, for disaster management, what is key in preventing disaster is what we call the political will. Having the political will is the key. And this for us is the message I want to leave with you today. That each of us, no matter which office you occupy, whether minister, whether representative, whether senator, vice president, president, we must have the political will to take decisions that will help us prevent disaster in the first place. If we went to some of our communities, some of our citizens flagrantly violate zoning regulations. They're building waterways. They're building swampy areas, fill those areas, without regard to the subsequent consequences.
The Executive Director of Africa Environmental Watch has branded the operations of city governments of Monrovia and Pinsville as ineffective in performing their statutory duties. Africa Environmental Watch is a Liberian-owned and operated US-based company. According to its Executive Director, Dr. Maurice Kofa, the current messy condition of the cities of Monrovia and Pinsville is one of the factors responsible for the many illnesses in the country. The visiting Liberian American was speaking at the Center for Exchange of Intellectual Opinions on Cable Street on Wednesday.
These partners, international partners, they could have left us alone to sit down and have our own disagreement with the president. But they feel that they have much at stake. And they feel that they want to protect lives in Liberia. Because every demonstration that happens, chance 99% of the time, even one person will die. And nobody likes war and then death because we want to have our disagreement. You can demonstrate. If your demonstration is going to be peaceful and it will not create any major disruption that will create economic partners to walk away, to say, you know what, things are coming out of hand again, we will not say we're leaving. Because the people who are organizing the demonstration, they have all right to do it. I really don't have any problem. But I'm only speaking from past experiences that we have to be very careful how we go about doing it and for protection. The president agreed, from my understanding, I don't know what is true, to provide through the Justice Ministry to make sure that the protesters are protected. If that had been peacefully, I don't have any problem. But our fear is we do not want it to go on spill, that it creates chaotic situation that will make our international donors to say, you know what, we're stepping back. Because once we start stepping back, things will even get worse. That's all I'm saying, but I'm not against demonstration. I'm still opposition in my own right. Because not everything that happens in the government I like. But I want to give them the benefit of that because I see that there are other progress being made. Because I know where the country is coming from. And the issue you raising, you think the president is not listening? I bet you. He sit and watch television every day and listen to people. He see it. He has his concern. But I'm only saying that let's do it in a more amicable fashion.
Well, we're from Liberia now. Authorities in the Central African Republic have issued a warning to a militia suspected of killing at least 34 villagers earlier this week. The 3-hour group, which represents the Fulani people, has been given 72 hours to give up those suspected of carrying out the attack, which is said to have been in relation for killing of a person from the Fulani community. The United Nations is sending patrols to secure the area. The 3-hour militia is one of the 14 groups which signed a peace deal earlier this year, which now appears to be unavailing. Well, without foreign development, that's how we go on today's edition of KMTV News Today. But before we go, a recap of our headlines. Thousands of high school students present certificate of appreciation to President George Weah, calls on government to place a halt on the administration of the wax exam for the next 5 years. Public Works Minister Mambudu Yimpan has called on government officials to muster political will in order to prevent disaster. And away from Liberia, authorities in the Central African Republic have issued a warning to a militia suspected of killing at least 34 villagers earlier this week. We say many thanks to you for always joining our news broadcast. Thanks to our entire news team here at KMTV. On behalf of the entire team, my name is Anthony Kukwe, bidding you a pleasant good night.